all the race information for all your students. Okay. Now for this one, we're also taking a look at class. This could be helpful if you are wanting to compare student achievement results throughout the course of the day. So if you teach middle school or high school and you teach the same class for 4 different periods, we often know that sometimes we notice differences in our classes that are first thing in the morning, those following lunch, last period of the day. So it could be an interesting way to cut your data by looking at what time of day the students had your class. So in this one, we would go down and we would enter, okay, they have it period 1, period 2, period 3. And again, this spreadsheet, it looks like has some conditional formatting set up where it changes colors. For this, we're only going to be looking at the values or the numbers in that cell, so the colors that are showing up actually don't really affect us much, as you'll see as we begin to use this data. And again, I'm going to continue to enter data for the rest of the students in that class to make sure that each student, when you look across their row, you have all their student achievement data. You also have their race information. You also have the class that they are in throughout the day. Okay? And I'm going to go ahead and save this one since the old version that we were using. So this is data set B, and I'm going to call this corrected version. So we know when returning that we want to look at the version that we've already corrected with student information or student names on the left and objectives on the top. Okay? And now we're going to take a look at our last set of data, which is data set C. And again, this one looks different than the first two, so hopefully you're getting a variety of different options here for what it can look like and how you can set that up. So I see here that this one's good to go. We have our student names on the left-hand side. We do see it's not all the way on the left. We have class and ID first. That's fine, and we can leave those there. We just need to make sure that the students are filled out along the left-hand side of the spreadsheet. And similar to the last one, we see that objectives are now listed in row 3 going across the top. So this first section in green and pink, it appears are again the student answers to different questions on that assessment. As we scroll over, we see at the end, we then see the total number correct and the percent they scored. This is actually the information we're going to be looking at. So similar from data set A, I'm going to go ahead and hide all of these columns with student answers. We're not going to be looking at letter answers. We want to look at the percent mastery. So these we can hide, and now it's going to make the spreadsheet a lot simpler for us to look at. And similar to data set A and data set B, we're going to go ahead and add 2 columns. For this one, we're going to do sex and class. So if you wanted to look at how males versus females perform first thing in the morning versus how they perform on assessments after lunch or at the end of the day, this is a great way to do that by inputting this information. So I'm going to enter the student sex for each of them. And then you would continue through all the students, and over here, just like we observed before, I'm going to enter the data for when they have your class. Perfect. Now all 3 of our sample sets of data, data A, B, and C, are set up with students along the left-hand side of the spreadsheet, objectives along the top. We've also added additional information columns for each of these 3 spreadsheets, which we're then going to use in part 2 to break down the data. So let's review the objectives for this part of the video series. Now is a great time to go ahead and review with yourself. Do I feel familiar with these objectives? Do I feel comfortable doing this on my own data? And once this video is over, I would recommend stopping it, closing out, opening up your own data, and doing the exact same thing that I just did for data A, B, and C with your own student data to make sure that you're ready to move on to part 2. So please self-check the objectives. 1, teachers will be able to arrange their data in rows and columns appropriately, allowing for easy and efficient aggregation. And 2, teachers will be able to add any additional columns that will better help to collect and arrange required data. Once you've done this with your own student data, you're going to be ready to move on to part 2.